Mullum Mullum has been active in the community, in this eastern community, since 2007, but the genesis actually goes back quite a bit before that. Give us a bit of a picture of what started and where it was started with Mullum Mullum.
Mullum Mullum was a concept that was born out of the Aboriginal people meeting in the parks in the eastern region, and we went to Karen Milward neighbourhood house and then looked at how they're set up and thought this is probably something that we should do for our community.
And this was you and your mum, Auntie Daphne, wasn't it? You guys were involved in this.
Yes, and Trevor Pearce and Violet. So there was probably about 20 of us that used to meet regularly. And then I left state government to start my consultancy, and then everyone came to me and said, can you write some submissions and can you go and, lobby some of the pollies? You can do that, Karen. So I did, and then we were able to get the place in Croydon Way, and we started the gathering place there, and then we basically outgrew it within, a couple of months because it just wasn't big enough for the number of activities we wanted to provide.
So prior to that, was it a couple of years? Because you've been going for about 15 years.
Yeah, probably about 5 years of meeting that way.
And what was being achieved during those early times?
Identifying what the needs were. So, people wanted to just come together and practice culture, be able to meet with other Aboriginal community members, family members, just having a place to call home, really.
Now, one of the interesting things about the Melbourne urban Aboriginal community and any gathering place you go to is the diversity in the nations and the clans and the families that we come across. And just looking on your website and having a look at just the board members, there'd be about 10 to 12 different mobs represented there. Yourself, Yorta Yorta, and you've got Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Wiradjuri, Wamba Wamba, Barkindji, Noongar, Arunta, of course, with Uncle. Yep. So what sort of challenges does this bring, or benefits does this bring? Because I can imagine the spread of mobs would be even more so across the entire Mullum Mullum community.
Well, the big thing about having diversity on your board is that it brings lots of different collective ideas. So you're not sort of stuck in, one sector or one area, and people bring different life experiences and knowledges, and that's how we basically operate, and we're able to make decisions really well because we're not all related to each other.
And that's definitely a subject for a different interview, which we're not going to touch on right now. One of the exciting things, of course, is the gathering place was recently notified by the Victorian State Government of the success in gaining a $4.4 million grant. Now, any other community organisation receiving that sort of grant would have thought, well, all their Christmases have come at once. But at the meeting that I was privileged to attend, the online meeting recently, your big message out to community was, okay, that takes us about a third of the way where we want to go. So come on, mob, we need to start thinking about fundraising. Where do you see Mullum Mullum being in 5-10 years' time?
Well, I'm hoping that the facility will be finished and ready for delivering programs and activities in 5 years' time. That's my goal.
Now, this is a purpose-built facility.
It is.
And this is currently where you're meeting right now, but you're leasing that facility from a church, is that right?
Yes, and they've given us leeway during COVID time and about not having to pay, for the last 12 months, which has been great. And now it enables us to actually make an offer to the Anglican Diocese of Melbourne to say we want to purchase that property so we can purpose-build our Mullum facility.
That's a pretty decent sized facility. I've been out there several times. Mm-hmm. Is there any heritage listing out there at all?
There is. So on the chapel area of the church, we have to maintain that, which is fine. It was all worked out in the plan in the first place, and then we were able to knock down everything else.
What sort of programs are you looking to run? Because already you've run quite a number of programs. I know when I was out there before COVID, the food bank service, for example, was absolutely staggering in its scope and logistics. You've got Say No to Violence programs there, obviously men's groups, elders groups, women's groups, youth groups, but that's not enough, is that right?
Yes,
you want more.
Right. We want more, of course we do. Our facility is going to be 2 stories.
Right.
And we have to think about income generation, so we're going to have a huge education and training area, so people can actually rent out that space, and that can be anyone in the community, not just Aboriginal people. So we want to actually build that reconciliation relationship with people in our broader catchment of the EMR, and we've been doing that like subtly, but it'd be good to do it in a broader way, because then they can identify things that we might need as well and contribute to that.
And when you talk about reconciliation, that brings up something that I've always found fascinating about Mullum Mullum, and actually inspirational, is that it's not just a place for mob. You've got a lot of non-Aboriginal people there who are really involved and enthusiastic. Chris, I think I met there, an ex-copper,
yes,
is that right?
That's right.
Met him a couple of years ago, and I saw him and his wife there at the Zoom meeting. So how important is that relationship and co-relationship with the non-Aboriginal people of the community?
That's very important, Charles. I think we have, non-Aboriginal people married into our, families. So we have to make sure that they're supported as well, that we're not segregating people.
Yep.
And Chris and Heather have been there volunteering with us since we started, basically. And when Chris was a copper, actually. And then when he retired, he said, I can do more with Mullum. And Heather takes all the photos, and it's just amazing. And they help write submissions, and when we, didn't have a huge cohort of staff. So they've been extremely supportive with the Yangali Mullum Choir.
Yep.
They're part of that. And then they video everything, so there's like a whole catalogue now of the history of Yangali Mullum, because they've been recording it. And that's good for our younger people to see, and be inspired, because we're going to have a recording studio, Charles.
I heard about this, yes. I'm very keen to see
So you'll be able to come out there. Do all the editing and everything.
I'll take that as a firm offer. I appreciate that. Karen, one of the things I've noticed at pretty well every gathering place I've been to is that there's invariably a huge cohort of disconnected mob. People who are Aboriginal, they know they're Aboriginal, they're accepted as being Aboriginal within the community, yet they're irrevocably disconnected from their mobs, their nations, their clans and their families. What role do gathering places have in supporting these people and helping reinforce their identity and their pride in being Aboriginal people?
Oh, Charles, it's very, very important. I think if you're feeling disconnected, from your mob, that gathering places provide that culturally safe space for you to be who you are without being judged. And we actually try and help people find their mob as well. So that's a big part of what we do also. But the big thing is that everyone feels connected and they're not different to anybody else. And I think also that we need to feel connected to our people, to our culture. We need to know where we come from.
Yeah.
We need to be able to, join in the activities and find our sense of purpose within that. And I find that over the 15 years where people have been in that situation, we've been able to help people connect back to their community, which has just been fantastic.
How many mob, though, at Mullum Mullum just refer to Mullum Mullum as their mob?
Always. And I do it too. I'm like, which community do you belong to, Karen? I'm like, the Mullum community. And everyone knows it's out here. So, and that's how people connect. And it wasn't something that we kind of generated, it just happened. And I see it everywhere, because people say, oh, Karen, I believe you know so-and-so, because they say they belong to the Mullum community. I'm like, yes, I do. So yeah, it's good.
One of the things in Victoria we've seen over the past few years, especially with this particular government that we have right now, are some sweeping changes across the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander space. We've got the First Peoples Assembly of Victoria working towards treaty with the state government. More recently, we've got the Yorta Justice Commission, of course, the Stolen Generations Redress Scheme. Now, all of these organisations are playing their part in addressing the wrongs of the past. Gathering places, though, also have an important part to play in the overall well-being and truth-telling of Aboriginal Victoria. What are some of the unique aspects of the gathering places that are delivered that simply can't be covered by URUC, the Assembly and the Redress Scheme?
I think it's about trust and rapport, and people feeling comfortable and safe about telling their story, and sometimes gathering places are a place to do that because people do feel safe about doing it. They have lots of people surrounding them. That's workers, it's other community members, elders, So when you come in and you're doing an activity, other people connect to you and then find out your story and then try and help. And I think that's the unique thing about what gathering places are there for as well.
You also, though, provide a bit of a channel through to some of these organisations. I remember when Auntie Jill Gallagher was the Treaty Commissioner, Mullum Mullum put on a special event out there so the community could hear from Auntie Jill about what treaty was all about, or hoped to be all about. Obviously there are relationships with other organisations and the main ACOs. What are some of those and how important are they?
I think they're very important. I think when Auntie Jill came out, it really made people think, oh wow, a senior leader in our statewide and even national community has taken the time to come out and talk to us. So people really felt appreciative, felt valued, and I think that's a big thing. You value our opinion and how we can contribute. And I really hope that Yorta does come out to Mullum at some point when they're at that point in their journey to actually allow people to come and tell their story. And that includes our non-Aboriginal community members as well, who've been a part of that history, being able to come in and do some truth telling.
Well, that's definitely part of Yorta's mandate, is to actually share the messages out to the broader community, the non-Aboriginal community. So we can assume from what you've said there that you've actually extended the invitation to Yorta.
Yes, we have.
Okay. I'm sure that Auntie Eleanor and the other commissioners will be paying attention to that.
It will be great.
Now, Mullum Mullum is the second of what's now 17 Aboriginal gathering places around Victoria, and more are popping up all the time. We've got Whittlesea looking to do one. Banyule has recently started up formally, the Barberton Beak Indigenous gathering place. What would you say to communities who want to do this, who want to achieve some of these benefits? Should they go out and visit other gathering places, or just put a stick in the dirt and say, we're starting?
Oh, I think people should visit other gathering places. You get a sense of an idea of what being at home actually looks like, and you get to talk to the community members about what the benefits are and what the impacts have been for them being a part of a gathering place. And I think looking regionally as well as metro, so having a look at different types of setups, because every setup is different according to the need of the community in that location. So I think it's really important that local councils and state government and even the Commonwealth government support gathering places establishment, and particularly if you've never had an Aboriginal organisation in that area, you definitely need as much support as you can get to get it off and running.
Well, you're saying that the state governments and the federal government should support these. Let me play devil's advocate for a bit. Why should they support them? What value do they bring to the community as a whole?
Well, they gathering places deliver on the objectives of government and the services that they need to get delivered with the money that they actually have. So you give the gathering places that money and it gets delivered.
So these are addressing some of the key areas and closing the gap, for example, education. I know a lot of gathering places have programs in place for those coming out of incarceration, for example, so reducing recidivism.
Yes.
Do you think they have an important role to play if the federal government were to open its eyes and look at achieving some of these CTG goals?
Yes, absolutely. And we do that through having health coordinators funded, health promotion funded. Gathering places don't do direct service delivery, so that's something to be mindful of. We leave that to our health services and others to actually do that. But I think we're connected to the mob, so they need us to be able to deliver to our mob. So to close the gap, justice, family violence, children, every issue you can think of, except for traditional owner stuff, gathering places can deliver.
Karen Milward, thanks so much indeed.
You're very welcome, Charles. Good to see you.